Sure. Okay, are we all set? Wait for everybody to sit down. Good afternoon. My name is Doug Brumton, Chairman of the Long Point Region Conservation Authority. And it is my pleasure on behalf of the Conservation Authority Directors and staff to welcome you to the annual meeting. I would like to advise everyone here today that this meeting is being recorded and will be posted on our YouTube channel at a later date. Okay. Are there any conflicts of interest? Being none. So I have a motion that the Board of Directors approves the agenda as circulated. The mover, Tom, second by Jim Palmer. All those in favor? That is carried. The next is the minutes of the previous meeting, the hearing board meeting of February 4th, 2026. And I have a motion here, if there are no questions, that the minutes of the Long Point Region Conservation Authority Hearing Board of Directors meeting held on February 4th, 2026 be adopted as circulated. We need a mover and a second. Deborah, seconded by Ed. All those in favor? That's carried. Board of Directors meeting of February 4th. Are there any questions on that? If not, I have a motion that the minutes of the LPRCA Board of Directors meeting held February 4th, 2026 be adopted as circulated. Mover, Mike, seconded by Dave. All those in favor? That's carried. Okay, I'm pleased to introduce your 2026 Long Point Region Conservation Authority Board of Directors. And as I do that, if you could just raise your hand and let everybody know who you are and where you sit, okay? So I'll start with Dave Bierce from the town of Tillsonburg. Shelley Ann Bentley unfortunately couldn't be here today. Robert Chambers from the county of Brant. Michael Columbus from Norfolk County. Ed Ketchabaugh, representing the municipality of Bayham and the township of Malahide. Tom Shelley from the county of Norfolk. Deborah McKean, representing Haldeman County. Jim Palmer, representing Township of Norwich. Vice Chairman Chris Van Passen to my left, from Norfolk County. Peter Hibma, representing the town of Southwest Oxford, unfortunately couldn't attend today. And of course, myself from Norfolk County. Next, I have the couple of committees that we need to introduce. One is the Lee Brown Marsh Management Committee makes recommendations to the Board of Directors with respect to the management and operation of the Lee Brown Waterfall Management Area. I am pleased to introduce community members who are here today. Please stand and wave if your name is called. Chairman Tom Haskett. Okay, Larry Chanda and Lee Kolchak were unable to attend. Next, we have the Bacchus Museum Committee, which develops recommendations and policies in consultation with staff for the review and approval by the Board of Directors for effective administration of the heritage site. I am pleased to introduce the community member who is here today. Wanda Bacchus Kelly unfortunately could not make it. Okay. Community members Mary Charles and Trevor Shelley were also unable to attend. We appreciate the support of all the community members and volunteers. Next, I would like to introduce some special guests and ask that they bring greetings from their constituents. And I'll start with Robert Chambers.
Mr. Chairman, board members, staff, on behalf of Brant County, I welcome you and give my picture to you. You forgot what I was going to say on it, but Brant County. If you all know Brant County, it's got a little piece of Long Point. Long Point has a little piece of Brant County. So we're always happy to be at the annual meeting and be part of such a special occasion. Thank you and all for thank you for that.
Yes. Next, I would like to invite Mayor Ed Ketzibar, the municipality band, to say a few words.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to staff and everyone here attending the authority's AGM. Thank you for coming today. It's awfully hard to top what Robert Chambers brought to the room. He's absolutely correct. It's a pleasure for me to always extend greetings on behalf of the municipal staff, council colleagues, and the municipality in general for this AGM, and I'm happy to do so today. We've had a long-standing tradition of cooperative work with the region and with the authority. We are certainly looking forward to maintaining that kind of relationship in the future. And we look forward to a prosperous 2026 coming ahead of us. So with that, thank you again, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ed. Next, I have Deborah McKean from the town of Paul County. Sorry.
I'd like to welcome everybody here. Thank you for coming. I didn't know I was making a speech because our mayor had a personal matter that she had to attend to. But as deputy mayor, I need to get used to these things. I wanted to say that anyone who's asking, and I have a mug from Houseman for our 25th, and I'm using it because I just got it. Normally, I'm at council meetings at Houseman, and I have a Long Point conservation mug that everyone there gets to see. So this is just a little bit of payback. Again, I'd like to thank everyone and let them know that Haldimand County Council is 100% behind everything we do here, and we have our full support, and there's going to be some trying times ahead, and I know this board will work together, and everyone here can have faith that we will do our best for what we need and in all areas of this county. So, and in every county.
Thank you, Deborah. Next, I have Mayor Jim Palmer, Township of Norwich.
I'm not a little speech person and then one of the parties. So thank you, for inviting myself, my CEO, president, this would LPRCA year. Township of Norwich has small portions of both Red River and Upper Gems is part of our project. The northeast corner is Grand River. And then northwest corner, the rest of it is us. So those are the Norwich. I don't know the slip load. It's just northeast of Norwich. Quite farm is separated into two equal sized parcels. So they understand something doesn't go the wrong way. So the one portion of my farm drains into the big creek, making the excess water from it goes over the dam in Peterbilt. But some portion of my farm drains into Otter Creek. The excess water from that flows over the inner and Otter. So my concern this year is the plan changes to the provincial conservation authorities. No notice, no consultation, no plan, no good reasons. Norwich still different results, so it's thank you everyone for.
Thank you, Jim. Next, I have Deputy Mayor Dave Beers from the town of Pittsburgh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I bring greetings on behalf of Mayor Daniel Lacy, who couldn't be here, and all the council and all the people of Tillsonburg. This building is sublet to the town of Tillsonburg because right now Tillsonburg does not have a town hall. We're in the process of building one, and it should be ready in about a year, but Conservation Authority has been kind enough. So what they're doing, they're taking our rent money and they've done the decor in here, which was done several years ago. And they've done a very, very good job. We're appreciate that. It's we have all the tables, chairs, and carpet, and they've really done a good job. Now, environmentally, we got to talk about the Conservation Authority and what they're doing. I'm so proud to be part of this, and Phillipsburg's so proud of it because what would we be without water? And we're in a great part of the world here. It's fantastic, and we really enjoy it very much. We got a great staff, and thank you all for coming out and celebrating our annual general meeting with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Next I have, from Norfolk County, and I'd like former chairman of Long Point Region Conservation Authority, Mike Columbus, to say a few words on behalf of Norfolk.
Oh, yeah, this is a surprise to me. Yeah, so on behalf of Mayor Katie Mark, who could not be with us today, want to raise sometime in the very near future to have a child for a first one. So thanks for having us pitch it for her. Anyway, just to thank you all for coming, and want to thank our staff at the Conservation Authority here for putting this event on with his name on it. And hope you appreciate your time here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, now I have one other special guest here today, and her name is Bonnie Fox. And if she could just say a few words. Bonnie is the Policy and Planning Director for Conservation Ontario.
Hello, really happy to be here today. We're basically the Association for the Conservation Authorities. Long Point Region Conservation Authority is a really important member. A couple of things I think I'd highlight from the last year was doing a coastal tour of your coastline, sharing that with the other conservation authorities, lessons learned. And so we're working on building the capacity of the conservation authorities in that area. And I think water and erosion control infrastructure, we try to help to get funding from M&R to do improvements to your dams. And the only other thing I would say is that, Conservation Ontario is the collective of the 36 conservation authorities. And we will continue to work together on, whatever the future holds. And in the meantime, business as usual, and continue to give the excellent service that the conservation authorities are known for. So thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Okay, next we have our very special guest, NPP Bobby Ann Brady. If you could come up here, Bobby Ann, please, to the podium. Bobby Ann was elected in 2022 and re-elected just recently in 2025. Born and raised in Hull, Norfolk, Bobby Ann has a deep-rooted pride for our area and its people, and is a supporter of the Conservation Authority. Welcome, Bobby Ann.
Thank you, Chairman Brenton, and good afternoon. My goodness, it's so nice to see so many familiar faces here this afternoon. And it's hard to believe that a year has actually passed since we all came together for the last AGM. And we know that much has transpired or is transpiring. But before we kind of get into that uncomfortable conversation, I want to sincerely thank you all for your commitment and dedication to the Long Point Region Conservation Authority. I acknowledge the long hours and the expertise that so many of you put into the staff who actually impart that expertise and ensure that good decision-making is occurring around the table, to the volunteers who invest time and money because you believe in preserving the Long Point region for future generations. I thank you all for your long-term thinking. I don't need to tell you, but your environmental stewardship, your water resource management, public education and outreach, wildlife protection, and your partnerships and collaboration are absolutely unmatched. And for that reason, I want to assure you that I am in your corner as we move through the current government's desire to amalgamate our conservation authorities and create an OPCA. I know that we all have a lot of questions and very few answers at this point. Even I don't have those answers. I've been trying to get them, but they are hard to come by. But I am not convinced the bigger is better. I've seen this before, and I'm certainly not convinced that things are going to be more efficient. I think that all of us in this room, we can agree that there is room for improvement in other conservation authorities across this province. And I think though that the one thing that we have to ensure locally is that the hard work that you have all been doing over the years is preserved. And I am concerned that local watershed needs and issues. I'm concerned that those decision-making powers will be a little too distant under the framework that is put before us right now, and that larger population centers are going to get the attention when it comes to advancing local projects. So we know Ontario already has 19 regions and proven science-based watershed boundaries, and I'm not sure why we wouldn't first move to those 19 regions, do a 5-year plan and look at the outcomes after those 5 years, test those outcomes. I know that the minister has publicly said that moving from 36 CAs to 7 will ensure faster permitting. I am not convinced at all. Like so many policy ideas I see, not just at the provincial level, but we've moved from, we're going, the cart is before the horse. So why wouldn't, I question why government wouldn't come to folks like you and say, hey, look, we've got some problems in some areas of this province that we need to rectify. Why wouldn't they first come and talk to the boots on the ground, people on the ground who actually know how we could fix this problem? So now the horse is out of the barn and we have to wrangle that horse and we have to coax it back, towards the barn. And I think that's going to be difficult, but I think that if anyone is up to the challenge of preserving and protecting what you have built over so many years, I think it is this group of people. And I want you to know that I am in your corner and I await whatever direction you want to send me in at Queen's Park. So I'll leave it at that. I have huge concerns, but I also know that there are a lot of very smart people around this table and around other CAs across this province. And Bonnie's here today, so she can attest to that as well. And I think we'll get someplace where we need to be, but it's going to take a lot of work. And I'm there to do that work if you guys want me to at Queen's Park. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Bonnie. Okay, next, today is my pleasure to recognize staff and members of the board for their years of service with Long Point Region Conservation Authority. Individuals are recognized for achieving 5 years of service and then for every 5 years thereafter. We appreciate the dedication of the employees and directors that are being recognized today. The following employees are receiving a 10-year service award. Leanne, if you could come, Leanne Mathai, could come up, please. And Sarah Dancy, our Norfolk Conservation Area Supervisor, was unable to attend today and will be presented with her award at a later date. Congratulations.
Just a one moment. I'm trying to film to the correct.
Perfect.
That's good.
We have 2 board members who have reached the 15-year milestone. And I'd like both of them to come up. Dave Beers and Michael Columbus. We appreciate their long service and the authority values their commitment. Yes. Oh. It's okay. But we have each for each of these. We have a beautiful chair. Wow, they're used to sitting chair.
Is this our own lumber that comes from our own watershed? Very good.
We have to carry them back.
It's hard to believe that 15 years have gone by so quick. I don't know how Judy and staff were able to put up with us stuff.
Of all the things that we do on council, we are all designated to work in certain areas, and by far, my involvement with Long Point Conservation Authority is the key for other services and other committees that I belong to. I really feel at home here, and I really feel that things are being done. I'm sure Mike will concur. That's it. Thank you, brother. Jim,
Right. So getting up, carrying them, sharing it back.
yeah, I'll- yeah.
Good. We have a committee member would like, we would like to recognize, and before I introduce him, I want Tom. Could you come up, please, Tom Haskett, where? Could you come up, Tom?
Yeah, here you. You gotta talk louder.
You hold. This committee member is member that says that they have been part of the conservation movement for a long time. Tom Haskett, chair of the Lee Brown Marsh Committee, has reached an incredible 50-year milestone with the Lee Brown Marsh Committee. Currently chair of the committee since 2010, he was appointed as a lifelong member when the committee was formed in the fall of 1974. Tom was employed with the authority from 1972 to 1980 as general superintendent responsible for field operations. Tom also was a board member and director from 1988 to 1993, serving as board chair in 1992. We want to recognize Tom today for his contributions towards conservation movement and for the past half century. Thank you, Tom.
Try it. Tell me, I was trying to adjust.
Can I speak for a moment?
Yeah, go right ahead.
So trying to adjust him.
This is total surprise. And the last 50 years have been a joy. There's never been a movement like the conservation movement. It is now being challenged. I accuse the provincial government of taking it as a unfriendly corporate takeover. And I will stand by the conservation authorities as long as I can. They're a great group to work with. And the diversity of the group and the mindset where they're all locked in to the same thing is a wonderful group to work with and a great movement. I appreciate this recognition. I didn't do the work for that. We did it for the moment. It was a pleasure to serve. Thank you.
Congratulations to all our service award winners today. Thank you. Next, I would like to call on Dave Beard to the Audit and Finance Committee Chair to present 25 audit reports.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And as there's a lot of numbers here, I do have a script, so I'm going to take the time to read it. Welcome to everyone. I'm Dave Barris, and I'm the chair of the Audit and Finance Committee. The Audit and Finance Committee met on February 20th of this year, and at the committee meeting, Ms. Ashley Didioni, audit partner of MNP, presented the audit plan and a high-level review of the 2025 financial statements. MNP has issued a clean audit opinion of the authority's 2025 financial statements. MNP founded that the financial statements represent fairly and in all material respects, the financial position of the authority as at December 31st, 2025. The Audit and Finance Committee draft minutes for the meeting held February 20th are included in your agenda packet. Mr. Ray Mile and Ms. Julia Abertin of MMP have joined us today. Are you here? Can you? Yeah, there they are. Thank you and welcome. LPRCA's financial statements are audited annually. MMP of London has conducted and completed the audit of LPRCA's financial statements. I'm glad to report that the management felt the audit went well. I would like to thank MMP for their services and also extend our appreciation to Judy Maxwell and the staff of the authority for their hard work throughout the year, ensuring the authority remained in a positive financial position. Thank you. The authority ended the 2025 financial year in a favorable position with an operating surplus of $1,323,438 compared to the budgeted surplus of $474,910. Positive surplus variance of approximately $850,000 is due to $260,000 in donations, $110,000 in capital grants, and $175,000 in realized investment returns, $100,000 in insurance rebates, and $200,000 in regular authority operations. The authority continues to strengthen its balance sheet with the increase of $636,000 in cash and investments. The authority's reserve grew to $13.1 million from $12.5 in 2024. Externally and internally, reserves can be viewed in Schedule 3 and 4 of the financial statements. The authority continued to invest in operations, and in 2025, as we acquired $912,531 in tangible capital assets, which are outlined in Schedule 2 of the financial statements. 2025 is another successful year for the authority, and I look forward to working with the board of directors and supporting staff in the great work they perform in the coming year. So there's a few items to deal with, Mr. Chairman. Shall I do them, or would you like to? I guess I can do them. I'll ask for a motion, a mover and a seconder, that the minutes of the LPRCA's Audit and Finance meeting held February 20th, 2026 be adopted and circulated. Mover and a seconder, please. Deb, and seconded by Ed. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. The second motion, the motion reads that the LPRCA Board of Directors receives LPRCA's 2025 audit findings report from MMP LLP Chartered Professional Accountants as information. Mover and a seconder, please. Jim and Tom, any discussion? All in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. And finally, that the LPRCA Board of Directors approves the financial statements for the year ended December 31, 2025 as audited by MMP LLP Chartered Professional Accountants. Mover and a seconder, please. Mike and Robert. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. And there is one more, that the Board of Directors approve the appointment of MMP LLP Chartered Accountants for LPRCA's auditors for the 2026 fiscal period. Mover and a seconder, please. Deb and Jim. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed, if any? And that motion is carried. Thank you, and I'll now return the meeting back to the chair.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, we do have a few motions here we have to pass, so I'll start with the first one here. That the LPRCA Board of Directors approves the chair, vice chair, general manager, and manager of corporate services as designated signing members for the authority business for the year 2026. And I need moving in a seconder. Dave and Jim, any questions? All those in favor? That's carried. The second motion is that the LPRCA Board of Directors authorizes the chair, vice chair, and general manager or manager of corporate services to borrow funds as required for the day-to-day operations of the authority. Mover, Tom, seconded. Deborah, any questions? All those in favor? That's carried. The next one is that the LPRCA Board of Directors designates the authority chair as the authority's representative to the Conservation Ontario, with the vice chair designate as an alternate. And further, that the general manager be directed to participate on appropriate committees for Conservation Ontario and be authorized to vote in the absence of the designated representatives. Any questions? You mover and a seconder on that. Jim, seconding. Sorry. Robert, sorry. Thank you. All those in favor? That's carried. Okay. Next, we have our general manager, Judy Maxwell, and the floor to you, Judy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure today to present the 2025 annual report on behalf of the Board of Directors and all the staff of LPRCA. Although there was a significant announcement by the provincial government in the fall of 2025, there's been very little information released regarding the proposed regional consolidation of conservation authorities. Staff stayed focused, and there were many accomplishments. As we navigate a period of uncertainty, we are very appreciative for the continued collaboration and support from our partners, our colleagues, and our member municipalities. Staff's dedication to delivering our essential program and services for the watershed continued in 2025. The planning and regulation staff supported the municipalities while protecting the public from all the natural hazards, issuing 222 permits for safe development and infrastructure projects. There were 5 flood-related events, with staff issuing 12 messages in 2025 through the authority's flood forecast and warning services. In 2025, the Teeterville Dam class environmental assessment entered into the final phase with a preferred option to repair the dam. A dam safety review was completed for the Lehman Dam, and a dam safety boom was installed at the Norwich Dam. We celebrated the completion and the grand reopening of the Conservation Education Center revitalization project at Bacchus. The Education Center is now a modern space that watershed students will be able to continue to receive outdoor education programming for many years. A long overdue renovation of the office space here at the administration office was completed in the spring of 2025. It was a good camping season. At the 5 campgrounds, we had 426 seasonal campsites occupied and 8,463 overnight stays. So the watershed benefited from Paul's work of planting 39,740 trees in the watershed, and 1,009 acres of cover crops are financially supported on landowners' properties. Funding was secured from Canada Water Agency for 2 projects over 4 years. $512,000 is going to support the efforts to reduce phosphorus loading in the Big Otter Creek subwatershed. The other funding of $635,000 will support restoring the ecological connectivity for Youngs Creek and the decommissioning of the Victoria Dam. Forestry staff, Deb and her team, conducted surveys and sprayed invasive species on 717 acres across 11 forest tracts. Funding was also secured to continue the control of red muddies at the Lee Brown Marsh. Funding allowed an expanded focus on monitoring the treatment of HWA, the disease that's affecting hemlock trees in the watershed. So on behalf of all the staff, I would like to thank the board members and the members' municipalities, along with all our partners and customers in supporting us in 2025. I want to thank the staff again for all the great things that we were able to achieve together in 2025. We have a short video that's Jess is going to play that highlights some of the things from 2025. So over to Jess. Maybe the lights. Jess has copies at the back of the annual report, if anyone wants to take one with them. And thank you, Evan and Jess, for doing a great video. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Judy. And thank you, Jeff, and stand up, Jess. Let's let the people see who you are. We're in the one, so who was that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Judy, and I need a motion that the LPRCA Board of Directors receive the 2025 annual report as information. Move fine. Mike, seconded by Jim. All those in favor? That's carried. Okay, bear with me. I got a few things to say here. I would like to welcome all of you for attending this afternoon. My fellow board members, and I would like to thank you all for your continued support of the Conservation Authority. I would like to thank Judy for presenting the annual report and the leadership demonstrated in 2025. And to the staff, I would like to extend my appreciation on behalf of the Board of Directors for all the hard work and accomplishments in 2025. Staff provided many valuable programs and services to the residents of the watershed. The LPRCA board plays a critical role in supporting municipalities and protecting communities from the impacts of floods and other natural hazards. The LPRCA land holdings are managed for conservation, recreation, and flood and erosion control. I would like to acknowledge a few great projects that were completed in 2025. The Teeterville Dam Conservation Ontario Class E Environmental Assessment concluded with the preferred alternative of repairing the dam endorsed by the LPRCA Board and the Norfolk County Council. The repair alternatives resolves the stability issues and maintains the historic visual character of the site, recreational opportunities, and retains emergency water supply for the Teeterville Fire Department. And congratulations to staff on securing over $1.1 million in multi-year grant funding from the Canada Water Agency for the start of the decommission of the Victoria Dam and the Big Otter Creek sub-watershed phosphorus reduction projects. Both of these projects will have a significant impact, providing the ecosystem, ultimately the water quality of Lake Erie. The province announced the proposed amalgamations of conservation authorities into 7 regional conservation authorities on October 31st, 2025. The board of directors does not support the regional conservation authority consolidation proposal that was outlined in the Environmental Registry of Ontario. The LPRCA noted that the proposed boundaries are too large to sustain the effective, locally responsive services and programs that are currently delivered. The Lake Erie Regional Conservation Authority, in which LPRCA would be consolidated with 7 other conservation authorities, involves 81 municipalities, which will dilute or eliminate the voices of rural municipalities. Although at this time the details of the proposed consolidations have yet been released, we appreciate the comments and concerns shared with the province of Ontario regarding the proposed consolidation of conservation authorities. We remain hopeful that our collective efforts have been heard and the importance of local driven watershed-based programs and services will continue into the future. Thank you. Okay, next we have the Stewardship Award recognition, and I'm going to ask Mr. Jeff Tribe to come up to the front, please. Conservation Stewardship Award exists as a means for Long Point Region Conservation Authority to recognize excellence in environmental stewardship and is presented annually to a group or individual who has made significant contributions to the conservation of natural resources with the Long Point Region watershed. This year's recipient, Mr. Jeff Tribe of Oxford County, is a journalist, photographer, videographer, and content creator who is passionate about environment. Jeff, with the help of Ducks Unlimited Canada, facilitated a wetland restoration project on the Tribe family farm, resulting in 1.4 acres of newly created wetland, including 2 wetland cells, several smaller water features, and 8.9 acres of surrounding upland habitat around the wetland. Jeff planted 450 trees and shrubs. Most recently, Jeff planted another 550 trees on the farm through Forest Canada's 50 million tree planting program facilitated by the Long Point Region Conservation Authority. Supporting the conservation of natural resources in the Long Point Region watershed is critical in optimizing and maintaining the health of the watershed. Thank you for your valuable contributions, Jeff.
Mr. Chair, board, staff, guests, cousin Jim, and of course, members of the media past and present. Nice to see some familiar faces and to meet some new ones. It was suggested I say a few words, didn't realize it would be recorded, but here we go. One of the great joys of living on a farm is the freedom to pee off one's back step. Admittedly, I, more than Diane, availed myself of this opportunity. Each time, I'm reminded how glad I am to live in the country, form a weather check, and then glance across at what we call the duck ponds, known more formally as the Harry and Jessie wetland in honor of my parents. My dad was a tree planter who saw himself as a steward rather than owner of the land. Our woods had been logged prior to its purchase, and around cutting wood to heat our house, Dad spent his lifetime bringing surviving maple saplings along. It's a thing to me that I tapped those trees for the 3rd year on Wednesday, and with help from Harry's great-grandchildren, continue to produce maple syrup from their sap. Our association with the Long Point Region Conservation Authority is also multi-generational. Dad sourced trees to plant a windbreak I can remember holding as a small child, somewhere around 60 years ago. The LPRCA planted 500 walnuts and 270 red oak, infilled with white pine, for a couple of my get-rich-slow for the grandchildren, maybe great-grandchildren, windbreaks / plantations on marginal land around 40 years ago. More recently, Doug touched on the things about the 450 mixed trees and shrubs, etc. I'll also mention that with Paul Gannon's encouragement, I have fenced off a majority of our pasture from Big Creek, leaving a single access point. And although not strictly a conservation initiative, we have built 10 kilowatt solar arrays at both my daughters and our houses with the assistance of Earthship dweller and top 5 percentile environmentalist Craig Cook. Yes, I believe we're in the climate change soup, and it is incumbent on those with privilege to be landowners to take action both on conservation and sustainability. But there is often an intimidating gap between concept and bringing that to life. I'll use our wetland as a case in point. Its origins lie in nephew Nick visiting with the offer to dig a couple of ponds on our flats with his uncle's hi-ho for $1,000 cash under the theory we might be able to shoot some ducks. You know, I said, I'm going to check with Ducks Unlimited Canada to see if they can give us any help. DU's Phil Holst did a site visit. Standing near a spring, the capital C conservationist described a vision that Doug talked about, the 1.4 acres, et cetera, and added to with the mixed shrubs and trees. And with the help of several organizations, including Stewardship Oxford and the LPRCA, that's what happened. Not knocking nephew Nick, but far more than one might expect for $1,000 cash. The wetland has attracted a variety of ducks and geese, which we may eventually get around to shooting or not. In the meantime, we've received much enjoyment from the thought a wide range of other wildlife enjoys the habitat: frogs, turtles, fireflies, birds, and even snakes. I love the sound of spring peepers, the quack of ducks, and our grandson, in particular, Hank, the great blue heron's pterodactyl-like cry on sunset-backed flights. Phil and Paul both graciously say conservation initiatives and projects don't happen without the participation of landowners. In response, I'd like to acknowledge at least one. Remember, a guy who pees off his back step fully understands they advance through collaborative partnerships with organizations like the LPRCA, providing consultation, expertise, guidance, and boots on the ground. I'd also like to emphasize the importance of long-term relationships with local representatives like Paul Gagnon. Paul is helpful, knowledgeable, and informative. His years of lived conservation experience in this area, a huge benefit to both the CA and the landowners he interacts with. It concerns me when I hear there's a planned consolidation of CAs across Ontario. As a landowner, I don't want to dial 1-800 rent a parachute consultant when we're considering a project for the Dry Branch. We want Paul or other local colleagues we've had the pleasure of dealing with over many generations. People who live here and whose passion for conservation in this area creates a level of comfort, trust, and confidence to move forward. In closing, props to the LPRCA for multi-generational support, and on behalf of our extended family, sincere thanks also for much appreciated recognition. We are humbly happy to share with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, our next is our guest speaker is Greg McLaughlin. Greg, can you come up here before I read this? I think I don't like you hiding in the very back here. Our speaker is Greg McLaughlin, founder of Work Cabin Films and full-time conservation filmmaker. And Greg is not just the founder of Work Cabin Films, but also a cinematographer, writer, editor, executive producer, and handles post-production. Greg has spent more than a decade pursuing his lifelong passion for nature and filmmaking. Using professional cinema tools designed for feature film, he captures conservation authority stories and visuals carrying the emotional weight each story deserves. Some of his work includes stories based right here in our watershed, like The Birdhouse, Research on the Edge, where viewers were brought inside the Long Point Bird Observatory and a priority place, Hope for a Forest, exploring the Carolinian forests of Norfolk County. Keep your eye out for the Saving the Night Caller and Destiny Wild. Greg, welcome, and you have the podium.
Thanks, Doug. I think first we're going to show a trailer you get to see. Not just wandering in and out, but it's fine, and it's out. It's fine. And it's just an incredible thought that not only for the species is this grateful, but it shows that all of the trees and the hard work from so many people paid off. This is the beginning of the success of those restoration efforts that drives it. Today, we're in the splash of the schools for the floor for 8 hours. I'll notice some peculiar tracks. cat-like tracks. We weren't too sure what they were. Really heartwarming, especially for me, who grew up in this area. I'm so happy to see the species coming back and using these restored lands. Some of us are doing something right if we can keep quiet.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having me come here and talk to you today about some of the films that I'm doing. For the last 10 years, I've been doing conservation filmmaking full time, and I've been fortunate enough to. Yeah. Okay. And I've been fortunate to go across Ontario, working with some pretty big organizations telling stories about conservation. But the last few years, I've been really fortunate to be back here in Norfolk telling stories of the Norfolk area and Long Point. And, we hear, and I've been here for 30 years, we always hear about how special a place Norfolk is. People say that word, it's a special place. But now we're really, with these films, I'm really trying to dive into really showing people just what that means. And I can tell you from being a drone pilot, it's everybody see drone photos, but I've been seeing so much of Norfolk with a drone in my work, and we have vast forests that you just don't see anywhere else except way up north in Ontario, and it's really special. And I'll talk more about that in a second. This is the latest film that we had come out called Saving the Night Caller. It's going to be on PBS in the spring, and it's been at a number of top film festivals. And this story is about the Eastern whippoorwill. Has anybody heard the Eastern whippoorwill locally? A few. Okay, well, the Eastern whippoorwill populations are declining drastically because we're losing their habitat. So I followed researchers for several days and nights. And just to give you an idea of how they've declined so much in two field seasons, so that's summer, fall, even late spring. In two field seasons in Norfolk, they only caught 33 birds Canada. And these are putting up big mist nets, and they're using sounds to draw them into the nets, and only 33 in 2 years. And so really a huge decline. This story is all about the work they're trying to do to solve the puzzle. And one of the puzzles that we're trying to understand is that we've had this obsession with planting pine trees for decades and decades and decades. And because of some of the work you're doing, planting things like oak as well, we're starting to slowly restore the habitats that these need. And they also need open areas to hunt. So some of the work that you're doing for forest management would be helping to potentially create those hunting grounds for them. So hopefully we can bring back the Eastern whippoorwill and not lose it from the landscape. The newest film that is going to be coming out for a sneak preview with the Long Point Biosphere this month is Destiny Wild. And Destiny Wild tells the story of Norfolk, basically, or Long Point, from Indigenous times to the settlers coming and what settlers did to the land. So that sounds ominous, what has been done to the land, and you'll see in some of the slides. But we're also, because of the success, we're having some animals come back. But let's just go back in time, 175 years. Every one of those animals you see there existed in the Long Point area. Part of their historical range. Wolverines, this was part of their historical range. Cougars were here, elk, and they all disappeared from the landscape. And that was because of the settlers coming. And basically, I've done a lot of research in the library and the archives, and we were to blame for those disappearing through what we did to the land and sport hunting. We had black bears here. Anybody have any idea when the last black bear was killed in Long Point? It probably wasn't as far back as you think. I'm not going to tell you the year, because you got to see the movie. But I was able to find in the archives the last reported black bear shot in Long Point. This is William Pope, a sketch that he did. And William Pope was a very famous artist who lived a good deal of his life in Norfolk. It's not for sure that he did this artist sketch in Norfolk, but it's believed he did. And black bears disappeared, and we have stories in the movie about a very famous hunter in the Long Point settlement that are late 1790s, who liked to basically tell stories of how many bears he killed. And it wasn't always for food. So we have those stories just to put in context what settlers did to the land. Next slide. So we definitely have photographic evidence that we hunted for food, but we also hunted for sport. And there's lots of images in the Norfolk archives to sort of support that. And then if you know the history of Long Point, we basically cut a lot of trees and turned it into a sand plain. And the landscape was in very bad shape. That's a famous photo. So much soil eroded away that the roots were standing on sand at one point. And these would all be in the 1800s, early 1800s, middle 1800s. And then, of course, you know the story of the St. Williams Forestry Station in 1909. That was the start, the great start of what Norfolk really, I think, has become well known for. We decimated a landscape, but the story is we also restored a landscape. Huge success story, what Norfolk has done. And there's a very, very early photo of some of the first people planting trees in Norfolk. And there's some of the first workers at the forestry station in St. Williams. So now we're known for having farms and nature, and that's okay. We're also showing the rest of Canada that the two can coexist, which is great, which we didn't always have before when settlers first came. Again, there's an example of the vast forests that I've featured in some of our movies. And it really is, as far as the eye can see, it's incredible. Most of this type of landscape is down in the Walsingham area, but that is some of the area because of the work that we did to restore forests. We now are lucky to be able to see that. And one of the great things that we're seeing done now is obviously a lot of farms there, but through the work of a lot of partners, including the Nature Conservancy of Canada, we're now trying to connect landscapes so there are forests or connected pathways for animals to move. And why does that matter? Well, obviously, if we want some species to come back or move through the landscape, we need connected forests so they can move. And even if you're a hunter, you want connected landscapes if you want to hunt for deer or other animals like that. So it's really important. And here you can see the beginnings of some connected forest. And that's what we need to move some of these species through. Anybody know what that is?
Sure.
Close. It's an American fisher. So this is now part of Destiny Wild, some of the animals that we're talking about that have come back. So American fishers disappeared from our landscape long ago. They're now starting to return. They've been captured by one hunter in particular with trail cameras around the area. He's captured them in numerous locations. I wouldn't say the population is huge, but we know that they're reproducing and they're back on the landscape. So that would be the biggest carnivore in Norfolk, with the exception of a coyote. And please, if you hear anybody saying fishers are taking their cats, it's likely not true. That's going to be happening, I'm sure, in a few years in Norfolk. But they're not going to take cats. So this is really an exciting story of the work that we put in to restore landscapes. that we're now having a success story like this coming back. So what else could come back? Oh, let's get back to that in a minute. No, go back to that one. I got ahead of myself on the slides. We know Phragmites has been terrible for this area, still is a problem, but some of the work that's being done right here by the Long Point Region Conservation Authority is helping one of the success stories, not necessarily of an animal returning, but of an animal finding a new habitat and really coming to this area. And anybody recognize this animal coming up? Now we're on track. Anybody recognize that? You've seen them in the marshes of Long Point. It's a great white egret. So 20 years ago, I've seen a great white egret at Long Point would have been rare. And now, in the last year or two, we've had up to 400 being spotted in the Long Point's inner bay there. And these are coming up from the south. And what's attracting them, the theory is, according to Birds Canada, the theory is that because the frag has been removed from the marshes at Long Point, the habitat has opened up, and these beautiful, very, very tall white birds are seeing this habitat and they're coming in and they're here in large numbers. So it's another success story of the work that we've done. We're seeing proof that what we're doing is making a difference. And that's really what matters here. We're seeing some of the work that Paul is doing for the cover crops. We still see some fields like this, left like this all year, but we're seeing cover crops come in. And so why do cover crops matter? Well, for something like an eastern hognose snake that's living on the forest edge, it would need something like this to be able to find its prey. And eastern hognose snakes are another species at risk. So this kind of work is going to help the habitat for a species like this. And if you've ever seen this bird coming up, one of our most beautiful birds on the landscape, an American kestrel, very small. I used to call them pocket hawks. You see them on the wires, sometimes with a mouse in their beak. These little guys, since the 70s, the population has declined by 70%. And that's really a massive drop in population. Cover crops will directly help this species rebound if we can plant more of them, because that's where the food is. It's not sitting in an open field. So again, the work that we're doing, I realize wildlife is not the mandate of the LPRCA, but your work produces the results that also include wildlife. So what are some other species that could come back in the next, say, 10, 20 years? This is one right here that might be able to come back, a bobcat. And that's been predicted by a biologist in our film, who successfully predicted the fisher too. So we'll see. Could we have those back on the landscape? That would be very exciting. The next one is much more likely for us to see back on the landscape in the next maybe 5 years or 10 years, even less, is a porcupine that once roamed here. They're gone from here, but they're as close as the Guelph area right now. And it wouldn't take much for them to find their way down here if they can find some connected forest to come down through. And why would that make a difference for porcupines to come here? Because the fisher's favorite meal is a porcupine. Right now, fishers are relying on squirrel mostly. So that would be exciting to see porcupines come here. And they are part of a healthy ecosystem, even though some people say they don't like them because of trees. We do need them, and that would be a real good sign to see them back. One of the new documentaries that I'm working on is, anybody recognize that fish? Gar. It's a gar. It is a spotted gar. So in Long Point, we have long-nosed gar. They're quite abundant. People have seen them. They're quite long. Spotted gar are much smaller. They're slimy to the touch, like a regular fish, whereas long-nosed gar are very much a rough reptile type surface when you handle them. So spotted gar in Canada are only found in 3 locations in Lake Erie. And we have one of the locations, very small numbers of them. And what has decimated their populations is mostly down in the Rondo area. If you've ever been there, years ago, we created agricultural canals to have water flow into fields. Well, those habitats have been terrible for gar, really hurting their populations. So I'm working with St. Clair Conservation. They're doing a lot of habitat restoration to fix some of those canal areas and gates up to keep the carp out of the canals. And the carp are a real problem with spotted gar for destroying spawning habitat. So you'll be seeing more about that species here. And they're found down in the Long Point area, Inner Bay area in very small numbers. So I have to go scuba diving or snorkeling in this summer to try and find them when they're spawning, because they only come in to spawn in the shallows for a couple of weeks in June, and then they're gone back into the deep lake again. So hopefully I can do that. So that's an exciting feature. And that's the Goujon is the Ojibwe name for fish. And we're working with a PhD student who's researching them, and St. Clair Conservation. So LPRCA has been a big part of all the documentaries I've done here in Norfolk. And there are people here in this room that have been in them, and some people who will be in one that's coming out. And yeah, so really appreciate the support for you being part of the storytelling, and keep up the great work, because we are seeing results with wildlife coming back. So good stuff. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, yeah, and thanks for your presentation. And the last time I met this gentleman, he was a hockey coach. Yeah, he didn't quite make it to the NHL, but he's here today.
Yeah.
Thank you, Barry.
Thank you.
Okay, on behalf of myself, the board of directors and the staff, I'd again like to thank you for coming out today. Great turnout. And that concludes our meeting. Thank you.